Today I'm sitting here with Mr. Johnson, CEO,
David Johnson,
businessman, entrepreneur, a staple in our community. Been here for many, many, many years. I am proud to even be sitting here with this man right now. So if you don't know, tell me a little bit about yourself, Mr. Johnson.
Well, Mr. David Johnson, we've been here on this corner since 1988. Used to pull my pickup truck on the corner and sell watermelons and whatever else we had. And sometimes we would peddle watermelon through the neighborhoods. And
I worked for him.
Yep. Q here was working for me back then. So, and since then, of course, we build until where we are now. We built a building in 2012, and we sell fresh produce, and we sell high quality fresh produce, picked and onto your table within an hour, if that's what you wanted. And so I think it's important to have high quality produce in the neighborhood, as high quality as you can get anywhere.
So, tell me a little bit about your journey. What started you in the gardening, from going from that watermelon truck, y'all, to now owning a whole produce, basically a produce market, you know? How did it all formulate, and what started you on your journey?
Well, I'll give you a little history about our family and our family in produce, and particularly in agriculture. We're from Georgia, on both sides of the family. My mom and dad, they were sharecroppers in Georgia, about 20 miles apart, Albany, Georgia. If anybody ever heard of B.O.B.S, he was the kind of founder of the NAACP. He wrote a book called The Souls of Colored Folk, and some of his essays he put in there, and one of them particularly were referring to Doherty County, where he called the cotton mecca of the South. And that is also where he declared that the color line, the problem of the 19th century would be the color line between the races in this country. Anyway, my mom on their side was sharecroppers, and on my dad's side was sharecroppers. Q, since you here, you can see this. Those are my great grandparents.
I do kind of want y'all to see what we talking about here, because it's an old picture up there in the corner, but just to give you a little bit of history.
They were born slaves, and they were freed probably when they were about 20. But
that's where you get that grit from.
Right. That's on my dad's side, and my mom's side was right in Doherty County. But my dad, he went to the Navy when he was about 16. I used to always have fun with with my grandmother, and ask where he was born at, and she would think a minute, and then she would say, he was born in one of them fields out there in Sassa. He was actually born in the field. Most black children were not born in hospitals, didn't have birth certificates, and so that allowed him to go to the Navy when he was 16. He said he was 18, but he was just 16. Unfortunately for him, he wound up in the war, which was the Korean War. When he came back, he was, of course, his granddad was fireman, and so he was in the produce industry, where he would deliver produce from one produce company. He would drop the produce over at their dock early before day morning. And so what had happened, he ended up dropping it off, and there was a rival between the two companies, and somebody picked that up what he dropped off, and so they were looking to get him. They found him, put him in jail, but they really wanted to lynch him. On my mom's side, her uncle went to the mayor because they were working for the mayor. The mayor got him out and let him know that he needed to get out of town or they were going to lynch him. And so he came up to Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, and that's how we wound up here.
Wow. Crazy story. Never knew that either. But when I was young, I probably about 14 to 15, and he been helping young men in this community for decades. Cause I'm almost 40, so I was around 15 years old, and I wanted a job. I wanted to make some money, so I said, man, he always riding around in this watermelon truck. I'm gonna go ahead and ask him. My mom like, go on ask him. So he had us doing some hard labor. Now I ain't gonna play with y'all. Y'all think it's a game, but the hard work that paid off into what I'm looking at outside now. You know, so around what year?
Not only so, but you know, the hard work also paid off because people ask me this. I'm also an educator, and sometimes the dividends that we see is not necessarily in money, but when we see people that we kind of fostered along, like you,
Amen.
And you're doing well. You're working.
I appreciate you too, man. I appreciate it. I didn't like it back then, but I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, it was hard work. But anyway, so. When we were kids, we lived in the Port Lawrence homes, and that's about 2 blocks from the farmers market. And so we grew up on that market. I was about 5 years old. My brothers used to take me down there, and I started when I was about 5 years old, like rolling the watermelon off to them, and they would then take them and stack them. And so I went from that to end up not pretty much. I ended up renting the portion of the market that had the stalls, and so eventually I ended up owning those, and I became, when the ownership changed from the city to the producers, I had 2 shares in the market because I had 2 stalls. And so I went from there. In the meantime, while I was doing that, I was also becoming an educator. And so the other thing that I do is I've been a teacher, I've been a principal, elementary, middle, and high school. I've been a professor at the university as well, which most people don't know about.
I did not know that. I was going to say that. I did not know that. Man, many talents.
But hard work is the thing that gets you there. And so, of course, in the summertime, I would just continue to build up the market. I always wanted to have one in the community because I thought it was important to have in the community for us. It's important for us to do something for us.
That's why I'm here, trying to help y'all young men out, man, so y'all can see people like us can do things without being a trouble or doing stuff in the community that's ill form, ill will. You know, it's stuff you could do without having to be out in the street.
And so, yeah, like what he's saying, it's important to see most of the children, well, they like Q's age, like 40. I've had them, I was a 5th grade teacher or an assistant or a principal or something like that. You know, they still come to this house because I've always lived in the community. And so now when they come here, they ask me for life-changing decision questions. Yeah. Like, hey, Mr. J, I'm going through this, and, you know, what should I do? What you think I should do? And, you know, of course, I give them fatherly advice, just like they're my own. And so, and they always say, man, I always will remember where this house is. And so I just think that part of the problem of what's happened in these neighborhoods, I'm going to just go ahead and say this because I think it's important. You know, with the murders and the things that's going on, the violence in these neighborhoods, when they go to these schools, particularly in Toledo public schools, there's no representation so far as people of color there. It's over 90%, it's around 90% white teachers in the total district. So if a young man, say for instance, I was over at King teaching 6th grade. I was the only black male teacher in the building.
Wow.
Now, of course, it's all male and about 99% black, and they have no representation. That's just a very good example. But it's also like that throughout the district. And when kids go to the offices of these schools, most of the time there are people of color are over disciplined in these schools, and so when they get in the neighborhoods, they're also over policed. And how does that transcend? What end up happening is you don't see the police as somebody that can help. You see them as a hindering process. You don't see them in the school as someone you can talk to. You know that you cannot talk to them, and they can't really help you. And so you get to a point of frustration that when you're out there, you run into things, and sometimes you take the wrong road. But if you had someone in your life that could steer you to a better direction, that perhaps would keep things more community oriented and give you a better hope for success. Especially, say for instance, when I'm going to school, you see me going to work every day. When you come in around this market in the summertime, you see me working all
hard,
day,
hard,
in the morning,
early, and
late at night.
Yes, sir.
In fact, some kids that have worked for me at the market, we usually have anywhere from 10 to 15 children. Well, they're not children, young adults.
I was going to ask this too before we get there. Did the city of Toledo give you any type of grant or anything to help you out with the kids?
Absolutely not.
I knew that.
However,
I knew that. That's
they
right.
have some federal funds that they have a program, summer work program that kids are qualified for if they meet the income guidelines. Now, the problem that we ran into, we'll get back to it, we have anywhere from 10 to 15 students, and they be high school students to college age students. I was on the Mayor Coalition of Hope, and that particular, when during the Bell administration, and that particular commission was supposed to steer the community problems that we're having now. It was supposed to bring ideas for solutions to those problems. The problem is, say for instance, I would go to Bell and we talk about we need to get some of these young people employment that perhaps don't qualify from the income standpoint, but they still want and need a job. And so I'm like, the city need to ante up, you know what I'm saying, and
that's what I was thinking.
Create, a pool of money that we can create those same types of jobs for these students, for the students in the city. That will go a long way so far as solving the problem of what they're doing in the streets. They'll be working and making money the right way instead of doing a lot of the wrong things in the community. But I couldn't get the support. They said that they would, and they didn't. I was working also with Paula Hicks Hudson. I believe she was the president of city council. Eventually, they called us and they told us they couldn't do it. However, when Paula Hicks Hudson did get into office, they did create a program for 14 and 15-year-olds. I was able to get some of those, I usually would like them from 16 and 24 because they're more developmentally ready for employment.
Really working.
Right. So, but anyway, I did participate in that. But then as soon as she left office, they killed the program. And so...
so anything that we can put together ourselves to bring to the table and have a solution-based program or idea that we can bring to them. If we had one, we might need you to shake some hands and rub some shoulders.
Well, yeah.
Because I got a couple brothers that's really, really trying to bring this violence thing to an end.
Well, see, the problem is they don't want to listen to
We need an older person like
right,
you, though.
right. But I'm just saying, officials, they want to pick people out that really doesn't have a stake in the community. Say, for instance, like myself.
I understand.
And so they really don't have the pulse of what's really going on. And so how can you help somebody you ain't willing to get out like where they at to figure out what you need to do to help them? And so only thing my suggestion is that we need to have pressure on city council members to allocate money. They had these what they call interrupters. How do we interrupt situations like this? You got to have people in the community who really know about the community. Say, for instance, they're giving examples of what we can do to neutralize the situation, the problems that we're having in the neighborhood. And employment is definitely a neutralizer.
Probably number one. So let's get back to the produce. I know we could go on with city stuff and what's going on all day. So what year was it when you thought about building a barn and the
greenhouse
over there? Yeah.
Well, we actually built it in 2012, and I knew building in the city, in fact, wasn't anything being built, in the neighborhoods at all at that time. That's right. And so, it was on my dime, but I felt like if I'm going to put my money into this project, I wanted to do it here. And so early I had acquired some of the land on the corner, and I paid a little bit more for it perhaps than I needed to, but I knew what I was going to eventually do with it.
The vision.
Yeah. And so I got to be honest with you. I knew that we would perhaps have problems from the city, even though it took out a building permit. But, sometimes they have, to me, in my opinion, this has been a closed city, and they like to control what comes into the city and who comes into the city. And so what I had to do was I created a design, we poured the concrete, and then when we got the building permit to build the building, we had to try to make sure we get it built, get those walls up within about 2 weeks. So I made sure I had the help and the product that we needed, and we got them up. And then they still came to try to stop work, but we had it up and it was done right, and they could not do anything. And so that would allow us to continue to finish the project.
Not only that, you got plots of land around the corner here. You got plots of land here. How'd you get it? First question is, how'd you get it? And is it, when you're using the water, is it like some type of, how does that work?
Well, that's a good question about the water. I'll answer that second. But first of all, I did have some assistance through Marcy Captor's office with some of the property that were vacant, because they had started a new program with the land bank, which is a part of the city, which I was unaware of. But Marcy Captor's office called me and let me know about it, and then I started to get involved and let them know that I was interested in this property or that property. Now some of it I was already doing some farming on before any of this, so I was doing it anyway. We had an agreement between the landowner, and so it was vacant land, and they didn't want to cut the grass all the time. I seen grass growing. I'm like, well, shoot, if it'll grow grass,
it can grow some
right,
food.
Right, it'll grow some fruits and vegetables. And so that's exactly what I started to do. But once I had heard about the land bank, we started to believe a guy by the name of David Mann down there, and I'm not sure if he's still over it or not. I talked with him, and I acquired the land through purchase. So it was just a certain amount of lots together, and then I just bought them all. They gave me a price, and I bought them. And so that's how it started. So far as the purchasing of some of these lots. But my intention was always to turn them around and beautify them from the standpoint of showing that they don't have to be a liability; they can be an asset.
Amen.
And that's what we need to be doing with all that we do in our community, whichever community you live in.
So with the water situation.
So the water, they have a program where they will let you, if you were doing a community garden, but as you see community gardens, you'll notice that they are not well kept because they start them off and then, people don't work them. And so it looks like, that it's just sitting vacant. And that's because people don't realize it takes a lot of physical labor to do it right. And everybody's not willing to apply that physical labor or get that physical labor so that it can be beneficial towards your project, because it takes consistency and know-how, of course. And so that's the problem with the community gardens. But the city have a program that if you have a community garden, you can make application through the city. I think it's the water division, and they will put you a tap out there for free. But you have to make application, and it has to be like a community. I don't know. I thought it had to be a community garden, but it may not need to be. But what they try to do is they don't want you sometimes doing like I do. Sometimes you have to run the hose different places so that I can make sure I get water out where I need it. But the water is actually coming from my other properties. And so many times people have come in and asked me, hey man, you need to talk to the city and see if they can cut down my water rate, because it's based upon your water rate is based upon also your sewage rate. But the water that I use is not going in the sewer.
In the sewer, it's going in the ground.
Right. But sometimes it's hard to deal with city officials, and so I just...
Especially when you're doing something right.
Absolutely. And that's unfortunate.
That's unfortunate, because we need the city to help us start this program. So if anybody out there listening, man, we need y'all. So gardening is like life. What would you tell a young man that's trying to find his way out here?
Well, you have to be first of all, you have to have goals.
That's a gem right there, y'all. Do not sleep on that.
You got to have goals. You got to decide, what you want out of life, and you got to make sure they're legitimate goals, something that you can get from the standpoint of, if you want to be the biggest dope pusher, that's not legitimate, And the reason that I say that is because when we grew up in the Port Lawrence, that was the most dangerous place in the city of Toledo back in the 60s and 70s when we were growing up over there. And so unless you had parents that really was paying attention to what you were doing, you might have seen pimps and gangsters and dope pushers as the role models of the community, but they're not. But if that's all you see,
that's all you get.
That's right. So you have to. What helped me is, number one, my parents. We didn't have no money. We didn't have no nice fine clothes. Sometimes they had holes in them. But they were always clean.
So what helped you see the vision through and stick to the process? Because, like I said, I remember the watermelon truck. I went out, when we went way out, I don't know where we was going, but we was way out there. So what made you stick to the vision and stay determined through all this? Because I know it had to be some ups and downs. It got to be some ups and downs in this.
But like I said, if you set your goals right, and you, like, say for instance, if I get up in the morning, like you saying, how does that farming is applicable or applicable
to life?
To life, Well, when I get up in the morning, or before, when I lay down at night, I I do an evaluation based upon what did I get up in the morning wanting to do that day, and did I get it done? And so you got to be honest with yourself, and number one, ask yourself, did I do the best that I could for this day? And you do that by evaluating yourself and what you've done. And say, for instance, so if I got a list of things I got to get done today, then at the end of the day, I will look and see if I accomplished those things. And so if I didn't, then they go to the top of the list for the next day, because I got to get that done. Because the bigger goal has to be complete by having these little goals complete each day.
Baby steps.
Right.
Great gym too.
And so that's what you got to do on a daily basis. And then you'll find by the end of the week, man, we got this done, we got this done, we got that done. Wow. I didn't think we'd get all that done. And so next week, let's see if we can get this done. And so I want to jump back to, when students are working for us in the summer, when we have high school and college age students, when them young people come here, to me, just like in education, I feel like, I'm going to teach you about agriculture things, and like in education, I'm going to teach you the A, B, C's and the 1, 2, 3s. But before I can do that properly, I got to reach you. I got to see where you at, you know what I'm saying, and bring you to a certain point from a developmental standpoint, from so far as relationship. Because when I got an understanding, I respect you, you respect me, I can teach you better. And so I think that's important to know, because wherever you go, whatever job you get, whatever you do in life, you got to develop relationship, interpersonal relationship with people. And if you become good at that, you can pretty much do anything you want to do.
Great, great, great. So what's next for the produce company?
And people are always asking me that.
I had to come and ask you that. It can't be, it's not fair if I don't ask what's next, because I know it's something bigger.
Well, of course.
Up in that big brain of yours.
So listen, hey, you sometimes you have to be guarded so far as your total goal.
Hey man, I feel that too.
But you
don't got to give me all of it.
Right, you reveal.
Just give me a little bit.
A little bit. As you go, of course, every year we try to get better at something.
What all do you sell too? That's a good question.
Well, in the summertime we sell just about all
fresh fruits and vegetables. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And so,
are they all grown by you?
Most of it is grown by us in the summertime.
Okay. You still got them old lands out there?
Oh yeah, we still got farm lands that we farm outside of Toledo, but a lot of the stuff that's around here, it'd be neat. Say for instance, cucumbers and tomatoes. I mean, we be needing that stuff, and so we try to plant it close so that we can get it. Because we go through a lot of it. Yeah. But some of the other things he know about the farm that out on Route 2, and then we got some on the other part of Route 2 out by the airport that we also farm. And then I have relationship with other farmers, so that if I don't have room or can't grow certain things, then I would let other farmers grow those things, and vice versa.
Okay. So what's next?
What's next?
You ain't gonna get that past me, not yet.
All right. Well, I like to do more with that greenhouse. I like to, even though I'm continuously busy, I just feel like, say for instance, in fact, we sell the Seaway. Like when you see them when you have good watermelon Seaway, they come from us.
Didn't know that either.
We grow them. Like say for instance, there was a lady, was over one of my best friend's house, and his lady friend was there, and she was talking about how she had this real sweet yellow watermelon, and Keith looked at me, and I said, "Yeah, those are ours."
Good laugh, but to see people was really enjoying it, I know that has to feel good though.
Well, yeah, absolutely. anytime that your hard work can be reflected on the satisfaction of someone else is always a good feeling.
Yes, yes. My mom come here all the time too, so
He's exactly right. And then she always let me know
I'm Q mama.
Right. What Q doing, because I got to know that too.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad that somebody is still checking on me when, you know, I was out there doing wrong, you know. And to go back to the Route 2 days, it taught me hard work. You know, I didn't want to do it, but I knew it would do something. It would help. It would help. And that's one of my passions still now, that I want to help. You know, I want to bring a solution to the table. So them days taught me that, like, oh, going out here running around planting them watermelons, it's gonna produce what we doing.
Right.
You know, so it was like, now I can reflect on that as an older man, like, wow, you know, I didn't think it was teaching me nothing. I was hard-headed, didn't want to do it. But now I can go back and be like, wow, damn, that was a lesson to me in my life, and I really appreciate that. I want to tell you that too.
And see, that's important, because as young people, you know, we don't understand, like, you know, what is this going to produce for my life? You know?
Later.
Right. We just think of what's happening now. Man, I got to do this. But see, if you got a good enough attitude where you know, number one, you stay with it, despite of what you're feeling like, you'll find that you'll learn little tidbits here and there. And then later on, you'll see the benefit of what you learned because you stayed. Now, when them young people come here in the summertime, I'll guarantee most of them, when they start that first week, that's the hardest week, because we working for real.
Yeah, it's real work.
Right. And so I noticed, like, when they finally get to the program and, like, talking to them after they come back and just talking, and they always say, Mr. Johnson, I got to tell you, that first week I thought I was going to quit. But if they were able to last the first week, then they knew they could do another week. And by the time they got to the end of the program, which was, I think it's about 6 weeks long, and sometimes a little longer. By the time they got to the program, you know, just a little bit of success every day, and then you hit the week, and now all of a sudden you realize, man, I could do something I didn't even think that I could do.
And when you see it growing, you want to keep going to see that too, like.
Absolutely.
Oh man, how it looked today.
Yeah.
What it looked like
Absolutely.
today.
Yeah,
and see what it looked like.
And that's exactly what they do. They be like, you know, sometimes they come and I say, listen, you see them over there, we're gonna have to water. And they were like, they weren't even there yesterday, but they done popped up out of the ground, and you know, summertime, they growing. They got a growing season, they know it, and so they're trying to get to the producing point where they producing the product. And so, hey, so that's what we do here. We teach them about life, just like it's life in the production of fruits and vegetables, is also life in the production of the individual, and perhaps that's more important, the development of the individual.
That's why I asked the question, and it came full circle. And that's really why I'm here right now. That's why I'm here right now, supporting B.O.B.S. I'm here with Mr. Johnson, CEO, entrepreneur, and business owner. B.O.B.S. We out of here.
All right.